Good day, everyone. So this is Mike Angelo Albiso from BEC English 1A. So for today's video, I'm going to answer some questions conducted by my instructor, Dr. Von Clyde Nunez, about the research journal article of Norman Key Denzin. So without further ado, let's go. So first question, what does the title mean in relation to the entire article? So the article means to describe a stage and level-like model of language acquisition and stresses the need for an approach to language acquisition in early childhood that is not embedded in a transformationalist model. So question number 2. What does the author ideas about infant as social being? So the infant begins life as a potentially social organism. He or she can see, hear, smell, taste, feel heat and cold and pain. Equipped with these abilities, the infant behaves in a social fashion towards others. So, number 3, what is the relationship between the caretaker and the infant in language development? So, the social order, as it is known, since and experienced by the caretaker, is symbolically presented to the young infant through linguistics and paralinguistics act. A relatively simplistic stimulus response model of learning operates at this level of cognitive language development. Yet, critical to this early interaction is the fact that the caretaker, as a significant other, provides the verbal and visual stimuli to the infant which provoke the child verbal and visual response and stimulus patterns of activity. So, fourth question, what is the purpose of the article that for you is very important in our lives? Do you consider the article applicable to the Filipino environment? So, to provide us with knowledge how children acquire language, the value of interacting with children by demonstrating many theories by various authors on the subject. It is also discusses the importance of a career such as parents in their child early language development. I believe that the article is pertinent to the Filipino context because some Filipinos already engage their children at young age and teach them some terms that aid in their language development. So let's go to the next question. What is the transformation model of language acquisition? Can we categorize this as a historical or modern theory of language acquisition? So, transformation model of language acquisition tries to explain how native language speakers can rearrange parts in their native tongue. It recognizes substitution, displacement, permutation, and other operation. These processes are thought to be linguistics universal appearing in their own language. So let's proceed. What are the critical issues arrived in the article? Do you agree or disagree on these issues? This can be classified as a contemporary theory of language acquisition. The following are the critical points addressed in the article. A quick critique of the transformational grammar position will be provided. Second, a perspective on the child's social and socializing interaction with a caregiver will be presented. Third, a perspective on a language acquisition will be explored that is based on historical and comparative data from preliterate societies and culture. I agree with you on this point because they are still relevant today. What is the difference between theory of the grammar and the theory of language in use? So, theoretical grammar is a theory that should be able to distinguish sentences from non-sentences, give degrees of deviance of non-sentences, link sentence structure to both meaning and sound, and account for or create all conceivable sentences in the language. It is an attempt to explain how people in ideal situation can make grammatical judgment, identify grammatical relation, and so on. while theory of language in use must account for how the infant acquires, improvises on, and uses the linguistic symbols, meanings, and utterance it receives. It must be a formulation that takes into account both nonverbal and vocal gesture. It is necessary to provide a definition of language that is not strictly ungrammatical. More than just syntax, semantics, and morphology make up language. So, what are the forms of linguistics behavior being discussed in this article? Give example of these forms. So, this article discusses the following types of linguistic behavior: silent, vocal, speech, which is defined as thought; public, verbal utterance, which are described as speech; and paralinguistic gesture, which include facial motions, smile, nods, frowns, and body movements. Lewis Sun as an example of how he acquired the meaning of word no. It is critical to provide stimulus feedback to the youngster because it causes the child's sounds pattern to converge. As a result of this convergence in reaction, the kid begins to associate specific sound with words, things, circumstances, activities, and so on. Language acquisition and early childhood socialization models that are not based on biological determinism, deep structural position, or a strict development chronological age-based model. Language acquisition in a transformational model, Chomsky argued firmly in his review Skinner's verbal behavior. That's a classic and strict stimulus reinforcement model of language acquisition could not explain for how a kid comes to understand the concept of grammar that allow for faultless linguistic adherence. The left-right linguistic reinforcement model cannot explain the formation of new adherence, nor can explain why man sequences of words have no inherent left-right order. The caretaker understanding since an experience of the social order is symbolically transmitted to the early infant through verbal and paralinguistic act. The following is a model of language acquisition that posits the influence of the significant other on the child linguistic skill. The child responds to the visual and verbal stimuli provided by the significant other. Only one important other, usually the mother, is considered in a three-phase model of language learning and engagement. The role of the absent other, as well as the role of several other, has have rather not be explored. What theory of language acquisition found in your module does the article belong to? Why do you think this fall in this category? So, the theory language acquisition found in the module does the article belong to is the behavioral and cognitive theory. This theory is full in this category because from the title itself, the acquisition of language is one of the remarkable achievements of early childhood. Children essentially master the sound system of grammar of their language and acquire a vocabulary of thousand words. Give three realization that you get from the article. So, first, the acquisition of language in early childhood as compared to the ways in which members of illiterate culture acquire and pass on the oral tradition. A child can be said to have language when he or she can evoke the perspective of an absent other and can arouse and stimulate their own behavior in the process. And the interaction between the child and the caretaker are critical because they give the child a set of symbolic experiences which are progressively molded into the inner silent speech and thought.